the window down, oh shit, I'm getting hot. Still I'm cool. No AC needed, probably sliding down your region. Oh, this Henny got me leaning. Ain't no secret that we ballin', and yo ho be refereeing.
What's up, peeps? John Williams here at the distance. Got a video for you guys. This is a post-fight video to Yoan Pablo Hernandez and Steve Cunningham battles for the IBF and Ring Magazine Cruiserweight Championship. Bout ended in the unanimous decision for Yoan Pablo Hernandez. I had predicted a decision in favor of Steve USS Cunningham. So here's my thoughts on the fight. Pretty much the early rounds were dominated by Hernandez. Hernandez was also able to stretch Cunningham 2 times in the 4th round of the fight. Something I've noticed with Cunningham over his last few fights is the fact that he started very slow, and it continues to take him. Now it's taking him much longer to get to establish something early in fights. Personally, I don't think that a move to heavyweight is going to do him much justice. Whether or not it's going to give him more punch resistance, like I don't think he could take a solid shot from a Chris Arreola or Alexander Povetkin, or definitely not Vladimir Klitschko, despite the fact that they have sparred together, to prepare each other for fights. I don't think he can take a solid shot from any of these fighters. And also, he's getting to the point to where he's 36 years old, and he just continues to start much slower in fights. It's like these days, it's like a Freddie Jackson album. If you listen to a Freddie Jackson album, it's very slow to get into from time to time, but it lacks the consistency of his earlier albums. His first 4 or 5 albums were hella good, but after the first 4 albums, he just wasn't as good anymore. It took a lot more to kind of get into the fights, and not only that, he just was not as consistent as he was earlier in his career. And that's what I think about with Steve USS Cunningham. He's just not as consistent in the early rounds. And the thing is, he is a slow starter. But against aggressive opponents, he's going to have a lot of trouble. Against opponents, he's going to have his number because, of course, they're going to look at video and they're going to look at film of him. And the thing about him is he probably does look at film as well, but being the older fighter, it's going to take a hell of a lot more for him to kind of get into fights. He's not like a Floyd Mayweather Jr. to where he could fight a few rounds and then look and learn to adjust a little bit. Because Floyd kind of does it, just like that. He just he'll get into the fight and he knows what he needs to do. And Cunningham has to kind of stand on the outside. He has to kind of wait and see what he has to do. But in the first 4 rounds, Hernandez was kind of in there and he was right in his face. He was right in his face. He was throwing punches. He was putting them together. He was closing the gap very early in the fight. And as he's closing the gap, Cunningham was kind of standing in front of him. And, in the 4th round, Cunningham was caught with 2 punches that he should not have been hit with. Cunningham should have been throwing his jab, standing on the outside, and, looking for his openings from the outside, and also moving. But he was standing in front of him, and he was trying to be aggressive in the early rounds of this fight. So Hernandez was able to knock him down twice and actually nearly knocked him out in that 4th round. So after that 4th round, Cunningham came in. He started to put his punches together. He got a little more aggressive, and he was put into a position to where he had to be more aggressive. And other than having to be more aggressive, he started to fight, a much better fight, being that, he was knocked down twice, and he probably lost the first 4 rounds of the fight. So just overall, Cunningham was going to have to do a hell of a lot more in the later rounds of the fight to win this fight, especially if he wanted to get the victory. But, if you look at the fight, Cunningham was able to kind of get his groove later in the fight from rounds 5 through 12. He was kind of able to get a bit of a rhythm in those rounds, and Hernandez was opening it up. He was stuck with the right hand in the 10th round and 11th round. He was sticking him with the right hand, knocking his head back, but Hernandez continued to stand in front of him. And the punches that Cunningham was throwing wasn't having that much of an effect, but also it was just, there were significant blows compared to the Hernandez blows. Hernandez was throwing, combinations, and other than the combinations, it seemed as if the combinations weren't having much of an effect later as the fight progressed. And, you know, Cunningham, I thought, was doing a hell of a lot more in the later rounds. But, you know, straight up, like in that last round, Hernandez was able to come in and he started to open up a little more. But with Hernandez's style, as he opens up, he is open to specific shots. You know, he's open to the right hand. He's open to the left hook. He's open to, you know, punches to the body. And Cunningham, who's a tall, long fighter, is leaving himself open to these kind of shots, you know, to where Hernandez could come down with the right hook or the left hook and, you know, hit him with it and hurt him. So just in the specific fight, you know, I had Hernandez winning the fight. Even though the cards were kind of wide, I did have Hernandez winning it by a couple rounds, or a few rounds actually. But just overall, I just think that Hernandez did enough to win, and especially to put some early rounds in the bag to take this fight. As far as Cunningham is concerned, I think that Cunningham needs to really second guess what he wants to do with his career. I'm sure a move to heavyweight is not going to be the best move, because I don't think he could take a punch from a serious contender at heavyweight, because a lot of these heavyweight fighters have a serious punch. And heavyweights aren't really known for having, you know, many rounds in their careers, like until like the Klitschko era, you know, heavyweights were, their careers on average was like 400 or 500 rounds, you know, and a lot of heavyweights don't really tend to get a lot of rounds out of every heavyweight in history. Ezra Charles has had the most rounds. You know, he has like I believe over 1,000 rounds, but also look at the amount of fights that he fought in. But, you know, other than like an Ezra Charles type fighter, Steve USS Cunningham against these days heavyweights is not going to do too well, because you know, he can't really take a punch at the cruiserweight limit. He's gonna, you know, he got hit by Adamek at cruiserweight, it hurt him. Hernandez at cruiserweight, it hurt him. You know, these kind of fighters are gonna hurt him, and if he goes in against a Chris Arreola, he's gonna get hurt. He's probably gonna get knocked out. So I wouldn't recommend that he fights at heavyweight. Another fight he could possibly face at cruiserweight is Denis Lebedev. Lebedev is a good test for him. If he cannot get past the Denis Lebedev, he needs to retire, hands down. So anyway, peeps, I'm out of here. That was Distance. Thanks for watching.
Quali say, everybody act according to the season that they born in. Some in the night, some in the morning, some at noon. Some in winter, some in June. It's all cool. It's a natural role. Science is